20 years of war. For some military children, that was their entire life. The heroism and commitment of our military community these past 2 decades is unparalleled and like nothing we have ever seen in history. We have shown up for our country, and social services have been created to provide a vast network of resources and support to the military-connected community. The generosity of the American people funded what is thought to be at its highest, 48,000 nonprofits supporting service members, reserve, Guard, military families, caregivers, veterans, veteran families, Gold Star families, special immigrant visas, and our beloved military children. It hasn't been without its challenges, though. Soaring unemployment rates for young veterans, devastating losses to suicide, fragmented support for military families, a shortage of mental health care providers. The list goes on and on. But we have worked together to highlight the problems and create social change. The narrative has changed from broken warriors to assets in the community. In 2008, veteran unemployment reached its highest levels ever. But today, we have seen every veteran demographic across the board secure higher salaries than their civilian peers after transition. Some take longer to find that first opportunity, but a huge success overall. Today, the business case for hiring veterans and the value of the veteran is clear. We have moved the needle on mental health, where individuals have gone from burying their problems to seeking support and getting help. We are now moving the conversation to getting upstream and talking about resilience. Programs and providers are available for service members and their families outside of the DoD and VA systems. We have data to prove that asking for help and getting help saves lives. The Forever GI Bill has made education accessible to so many veterans and their family members, truly empowering the next generation and providing access to many first-generation college students. Thousands of organizations across this nation provide food assistance, financial literacy, legal support, and critical housing services to veterans who have fallen on hard times. Ensuring that no one falls through the cracks is exactly what Combined Arms and the other community hubs around the country are working together to coordinate. They can put these individuals on a pathway to stability in partnership with all of the essential service providers. Families are a part of the conversation too. Let's start there. Military families, veteran families, loved ones, families of the fallen, survivors, caregivers, and military children. We have access to school activities, respite relief, networking, support systems, grief counseling, therapy, and capable of highlighting the needs of under and unemployment for our military spouses. So the question is, where do we go from here? We are on our second year of a global pandemic. Our economy is disrupted, and the global giving is disrupted. We are no longer a nation at war. American interest in this conversation will wane. Collaboration will be more important than ever before. The opportunity is in front of us. There is success in collaboration to provide the best support for veterans and military families. The time is now for us to work together. We ask you to help us reflect on the past and collaborate for the future, because we are stronger together.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 Combined Arms Convening Kickoff. My name is Kelly Finstormer. I'm the Executive Director of the Combined Arms Institute, and on behalf of the Combined Arms team, I wish you a warm welcome. Thank you for joining us. Nothing like a little James Bond to get the inspirational juices flowing. We are here to provide some inspiration and look to the future about how we can work together to best support our veterans and military families. So thank you for making the time and joining us today. We have an amazing guest speaker with us to help us get some more of those creative juices flowing. I'm going to introduce you to Ray Perez in just a second, but I do want to just share a little bit about his background before I introduce him personally. He is part of the 75th Ranger Regiment, but comes to us today as a transitioning veteran, so has some really unique perspective on this landscape right now. He served in Project Galahad, and since 2001, the 75th Ranger Regiment has been continuously deployed in support of the counterinsurgency fight that stemmed from the September 11th terrorist attacks. War is always chaotic and dangerous and unpredictable, and we can relate to that in terms of our ambiguous environment that we're operating with. Project Galahad implemented a decision-making process called military design thinking, a specialized field with roots in chaos and complex theories. Design thinking fosters divergent and experimental ways of problem solving. Project Galahad and this team is charged with bucking the orthodoxy and coming up with new ways of doing business. To foster that creativity, the Galahad team members created a workspace more analogous to Silicon Valley than to an elite special operations unit. So we've invited Ray to join us to provide some inspiration about how we can operate in this complex and dynamic environment that we find ourselves in, and apply some unconventional design thinking that we can respond to this complex and ambiguous environment. Ray comes to us from Atlanta, Georgia this morning. He grew up in South Texas, has 15 years as a special operator serving in the 75th Ranger Regiment with the United States Army. He's recently completed his MBA with Emory University. He has completed courses with MIT's Design Methodology course, has a Harvard Behavioral Economics course, and an advanced design qualified with Joint Special Operations. So clearly he's the guy that just likes to sit around and figure out how things might happen. We're really excited to have him with us to help inspire us to think how we can take these horns and dive into the next 2022, into the future, as we figure out how to walk together and collaborate together better in a very ambiguous environment. So welcome, Ray. Thank you so much for joining us. I'd love if you could just take a little bit of time to introduce yourself a little bit more than what I've shared with everyone already.
Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, so first off, Kelly, I want to thank you and the Combined Arms team for inviting me on, graciously allowing me to be here to speak. And really, I also didn't want to let a second pass without thanking the attendees and the crowd, because I know that everybody here is committed to the same thing, supporting the veteran network and this country in general. So, I just wanted to start off by making sure that everybody understands that I truly appreciate what y'all do. So I grew up in South Texas, down in an area near Corpus Christi. Some may know it because I know there's a lot of Texas folks in here, but it's called Bishop, Texas. I grew up down there, entered the military in 2006, May. And then I knew that I wanted to do a little bit more with going after a very aggressive career. So I tried directly out for the 75th and made it. In that time, so like I had standard upbringing in the Ranger Regiment. Like for those that don't know, the Ranger Regiment, it's an element that's a direct action raid force in direct support of American policy, and essentially targeting high value targets, typically in high risk environments, both politically and risk to life. And so in that time, I came in as an infantryman, so I've done the standard infantryman Ranger Regiment life, which is operational. I know a lot of people thank you for your service for that, but I've actually found the opposite of I could not could not be where I am today without one, my family, my wife, and then my career so far. It's amazing. So I've grown up for those of you who maybe have spent time in the military, I grew up in a very standardized formation. So it was either go along, very fit the standard, grow, adapt, always running in the fire. So that environment didn't really allow me to reflect a whole lot. And when I stepped out of the operational role in 2016, because of some injuries and I had been voted into essentially a selection and training position. I was afforded the time to reflect then, and that's really where the thinking differently took hold in me. So I had already started reading a lot when I was my final years as a Ranger platoon sergeant, and I knew that I was curious about how people think about their thinking, but I also knew that I was very curious in connecting that to the human domain of almost essentially creating hope inside of organizations by inspiring thought and supporting that with tangible action right behind it. And so that kind of that brought me through my selection time into where I sit now, which is I'm on my way out of the Project Galahad seat and stepping out of the military. And I'll say I think my career has transitioned me well, because there's only really two things I need to operate and be happy with my purpose, and that's people and problems. And I don't think the world is in any shortage of those. So I'm pretty excited to move on to the next step with my family. My family's given a lot so far, as all military families do. But yeah, I'm excited about this discussion.
Thanks so much, Ray. And I know when we spoke the other day, you shared a little bit about, and I think it would be great if you could share a little bit about the audience, and you guys will realize he's an incredibly humble, an amazing individual. So if you have questions for him, please do put them in the chat. I know he has one for you to start thinking about. We'll just place that nugget in there right now, but he wants you to reflect on what is your greatest challenge right now as you serve veterans and military families. So start thinking about that, and we're going to ask you to put some of those responses in the chat so we can engage with you. But if you would, Ray, can you share a little bit more about how your experience actually in becoming part of the Ranger Regiment and your pathway there?
Yeah. So are you talking like the selection stuff we talked about?
Yes.
Yeah. So so when I was on my way into the organization, I actually failed in selection. So as many know, there's a combat water survival test, and I think so. And I'm glad you asked this, Kelly, because oftentimes we tell stories that reflect the positive, not what the struggle that you went through to get there. So I failed the combat water survival test in selection. I was really lucky. I was given another shot based off of character. The cadre gave me a vote to go again, but I had to do the entire selection again. And I tell you what, like that during that time, I knew that my dad and my family in particular had established a sense of work ethic in me, but I also in that moment I had to learn to train differently, and I was going to have to step into very uncomfortable environments, and I was going to have very little guidance doing it. So I did have a guy, his last name was Glazier, that helped me out in the afternoons every now and then, but I started swimming every day at lunch and every afternoon. And what I did is I basically went to the point of failure. So like at first it was hard for me to get in body armor with shorts on, but then I had to eventually go up to wearing a body armor, boots, carrying a rifle, all that stuff. So I just chunked away at it, and I realized that there was, so long as you're willing to slow down and pick out the variable that you are struggling on and work on that, you can stay inside of a very deliberate Cal Newport would call it a deep work focus, or Daniel Coyle would call it a level of deliberate practice. There is you can stay inside that loop of learning and get very very good very quickly. And so that's what I ended up doing. I came back, I passed selection, and then that's how I made it into the Ranger Regiment. It was an amazing experience. I'll never forget hitting the water the second time through, and then realizing that I actually had it under control. And when I made it, one of the cadre, thanked me for trying as hard as I did. And it was a big, which they didn't speak to you like that a lot back then. So it was a really humbling experience. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Ray. And what I love the most about that is the opportunity that you shared is just how you embraced that growth mindset. What you shared with me the other day was that you realized that no one was going to hold your hand through that training and process, and that was something that you were going to have to figure out how to find the inner strength and access extra resources outside of what the Army was going to provide to you to really help you embrace that growth mindset. And so it's a little bit of grit and a little bit of growth mindset that really sets that foundation for who you are. And I think it's something we can all really learn from and embrace as we think about our day to day. Can you tell us a little bit more about Project Galahad and what inspires you about that operation?
Oh man, there's a lot. So one of the main articles that's out about Project Galahad, about the team, was an interview with Adam Armstrong. He's a battalion commander now. Colonel Armstrong is a battalion commander now out in 10th Mountain Division. Amazing leader, amazing guy. I've been fortunate enough to work with him a couple times. And then there's another publication in the Joint Special Operations Journal that involves it's a combination of different people from the Project Galahad group, but it has John Stanzik and Peyton Talbot as the authors. And then there are two other very important people in the design movement. Their names are Dr. Ben Zwiebelson and Nathan Schwagler, and they are two instructors down in the Joint Special Operations University they're almost leading. They're like the real secret to embedding design thinking into the military. Now, bringing it, they're very in depth into the what of design thinking and how we implement it and bring it to life. That is kind of where the regiment has married up to JSOU, this Joint Special Operations University, how we've kind of married up to them to stay on the cutting edge of making sure that we're pushing our thinking and imagining a future that we're going to fail in to prepare for. Yeah. So well, you asked me what I enjoyed about that. I think there's really two big things that I enjoyed the most. One was that all of the variables, the characteristics of the people to be just tremendously successful through creativity. All of those variables sat there alive inside of the community already. We just needed a tool to bring them alive. And so the tool, like the thing that we could bring in, were the practices that JSOU taught us. And reshaping everything about the environment, about our language, realizing how much we intuitively push a certain direction with our thought. All of those things, it's just I think it speaks to our organization very well, because we breed what I call a hunter mindset. And when I say that, because our people don't choose to sit back and just hope that everything works out. They go out and make it happen. And they know it's not a matter of if things are going to go wrong. It's the reason that the regiment is chosen to conduct special missions is because people know how we're going to behave when things go wrong. And so doing that back in the administrative cycle of looking at creative ways to apply and strategically prepare ourselves for the future, that can be really, really uncomfortable, but it's necessary. And so that's one of the things, is that inside, I think oftentimes creativity is filtered down to things like acting and singing, and those are arts. Don't get me wrong, but I think one of the most amazing realizations I've had in my career is that leadership is an art, not because it is loose and it has a lot of different moving pieces to it, but because it's meant to make you feel something. And if that is where creativity steps in to allow us to move out of our own way, be a little kid again that's playing, trying to get somewhere, that isn't worried about whether we're going to get promoted or whether we're going to be perceived a certain way by a higher ranked person, and instead get at the objective very aggressively. And so that's one of that's the first well, no, that's really that's both of them kind of wrapped up into a single thing. It's just it's an amazing experience in creativity that showed me we already had the group that cared enough to do very uncomfortable things, and so we did them.
Thank you. That's amazing. And I think we're all looking to find ways to embrace a little bit of that unconventional design thinking as we think about the current state of our social services sector. We've made so much progress, but we also have a lot of challenges in front of us. And I think we'd love to hear from you about how we might be able to apply, as so many of us are home or in like private offices, some of this design thinking. How can we break away from our norms and break through as we look to collaborate for the future of our veterans and military families?
Oh yeah. I think first off, that question in the beginning of where, what do you think is the most important thing in the future? If anyone has written that down yet, I'm wondering if they can put in the chat if everyone can write that down in a single sentence in less than 30 seconds. Because if we can get everybody to say yes, I'll tell you the next step to what I think you should do. And it should be a single sentence.
What is the biggest challenge that you're experiencing as service providers in the veteran and military serving ecosystem right now? So we've got awareness of resources, working with those that don't want help or don't think they need it, outreach to veterans that need services, base access and awareness so we can help earlier, not enough staff to meet the demand, gaining awareness of the national landscape, connecting with women veterans. Resources and awareness is a constant theme here. Oh, participation consistency. So we have lots of people that start and then don't stop, or then stop. Silos, client motivation. So there are some reoccurring themes there about navigation, people working in silos. For those of you that put awareness, is it awareness of your resources or other resources? Both. Yeah, everyone's saying both. Lots of that.
And so I think, yeah, I'm definitely seeing the trends here. I think one of the biggest things to consider now is, now that you have something down and you've committed a sentence to that, I would ask you, so remember I said to think about your thinking. I would then ask the question is, why did you pick that? Why did you choose that is the, so if that is the largest problem, how do you know that in fact that is a problem? What is the story that supports that? And because the further you can get so you say if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail after that, right? Well, if you provide a service, and then you convert, what we found inside of Galahad was that if you oftentimes started creating solutions based off of your competitive advantage that already existed, you could rationalize anything in your mind to make sense and say, hey, um, we're really good at this, so we're going to handle that part of the problem. But in all reality, that was not the place to choose to compete. There was a very clear singular place to choose to compete. And earlier I am speaking here as a transitioning veteran. Um, Earlier we talked about, the kind of like some of the challenges, and you're seeing some of the stuff with resources coming up and understanding what to even go after. Um, one of the things that I think translates well to this discussion is in Galahad, and in any when you're moving with any level of integrity in a large system, you have to have trust. And it's a hard conversation to have, but it's a conversation that needs to be had. Is that there, just because someone starts a nonprofit, it does not mean that you are doing it for the right reasons. It also doesn't mean that you're not doing it for the right reasons. But what you can do is deliberately show behavior that builds trust. And there is so in for us as an office, we could not determine the needs of the organization unless we were very trusted, which meant that we also had to address ourselves. We had to have the conversations where if someone thought we were some kind of underground change element that was really going in and manipulating the minds of people to bring to life the commander's needs, if they really thought that, they needed to feel safe enough to say it. And that, so I think that there is a level of need for me, from where I'm coming from as a transitioning veteran, is that when I see the amount of veteran nonprofits that are out there, I have to wonder. I wonder who to go to, not because I wonder what they put on their website, the services they can provide, but I wonder who is actually going to do it in a timely manner and actually solve my problem, help me solve my problem, and even more so, teach me how to fish instead of handing me a fish. And so I guess that trust, it's really hard to know who to go to. Um, because you don't know who's going to try and put you on a YouTube video for, say PTSD because you went to them for help on something. You don't know who's going to, send your bio out to people and tell them that they almost like they own you now, or give you a $500 scholarship and then on LinkedIn put a post up that says they put your child through school. When in all reality, the Yellow Ribbon program put them through school. But so there's this language that honestly inside of the active duty military, and I don't want to speak for the military, but I get very curious about that. And I think those very sticky layers are where a lot of opportunity sits to align and action together, as a nonprofit community, not as a single nonprofit, but as a community. Yeah.
Absolutely right. Thank you so much. And I think that's some of the challenges, a couple of things you said, which is, just to reiterate that trust factor is we have to have trust for us and the individuals that we serve as organizations. We have to show up. We have to follow through. But we also have to have trust within the network of organizations that we're working together with to serve the holistic needs of veterans and military families. And I think, these are challenges that we have as nonprofits specifically to not only just, we have to story tell and go and ask funders for funding to give something else away for free. And there's this constant balance, but I think it's such a great point to reiterate, to always remember to keep our clients and those that we serve front of mind, and making sure that we are serving them well and that we're in it for the right reasons, to make sure that we're accelerating the life transitions of our military connected community.
Yeah, Kelly, on that also, sorry, so there's a really interesting practice that happens in the marketing community a lot. And I've seen it in 3 different big meetings now, but where someone leaves an open seat in literally at a table that always represents the customer or the purpose that you serve. And every conversation that you have inside of that room, you should be able to have in front of your customer. And if you can't, then it's got some layers of deception that you might want to address the why behind that before you continue. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and we do have a question in the chat about how, one of our barriers to this and a huge challenge is how do we create those trusted relationships via Zoom? And I think, it absolutely, can we have more in-person introduction times? And Linda, I'll answer that question just to say we invite you into our collaboration committee conversations where we do more personalized opportunities. But I think it's on us, right? Each one of us to embrace that inner growth mindset and to reach out and make those connections. And everyone's experiencing that online meeting fatigue. And so we're all in it together. So it's in one of those ways, how do we take, right? So right here's this question for you. How do we take all of these different perspectives that people might be having, if you could share a little bit more about, different perspectives and how that kind of creates some challenges on a singular issue and the approach to that, how we might think about that using some of the tools and resources you have.
Yeah. So the multiple perspectives typically expose opportunity and opinion. And so there is so valuable when you have any change initiative or you're looking to move the needle especially as like any type of cross-functional team. So different purposes, pushing towards a single initiative. I think that, so in design, one of the tools used that can be easily used even on Zoom, or there's so many different drawing boards that you can use. You move away from words and go back to just drawing, to just pictures. I have seen people, and this is no secret, but it's amazing to watch people build courage in different arenas. And in particular, one of the people that we worked with in design, I have personally seen this guy run out of the back of a helicopter in the middle of machine gun fire. Do what needed to be done. He handled the business that night that like a true professional, complete disregard for his own life. But at the same time, when we put him on a whiteboard to draw instead of speak, he tried to make jokes about it. And it was which is very natural. It's a defense mechanism that we have built in to go back to whatever behavior we can to try and align a community against something. And so, but he ended up going into one of the greatest metaphors I've ever seen to show perspective in our organization. And so I think that one of the things that you can do in building trust is going to very vulnerable moments quickly. I think creativity is vulnerable, and I think drawing is the ultimate level. You'll usually hear like, I'm not a good drawer. The point of the entire thing is not drawing. It's also not, talk about the growth mindset. The key word in the growth mindset is yet. You're not a good drawer yet. And the intent of what you're drawing is not to go up as a Picasso. It's meant to expose your potential perspective to action or to choose where to compete.
Absolutely. I was smiling at that, as that's what my 6-year-old came home with from school yesterday, talking about the power of yet. And I think we all have that opportunity to embrace in front of us. And the challenge is, how do we self-motivate and embrace the operating environment that we're living in. And just absolutely incredible advice. And I know there's some great things happening also in the chat about different opportunities. We do have a wellness breakout that's coming up. We're going to talk more specifically about things you can do if you all are interested in that next week. But I would, Ray, if you would, we're going to come up on time because I'm going to share some celebration news and updates in a few minutes. But I would ask if you could just provide, some inspirational comments. I know we've talked about shaking the integrity of systems and how we can find hope in all of those. And I'd ask for you to just provide some comments and remarks in those two areas.
Yeah, I think in this community in particular, what is very special is that you are still continuing to dedicate your life to something that is these problems, they're not small problems. The veteran narrative, I saw it in the chat box, the ability to connect during during the conditions that we have right now. All of those things are huge challenges. And the fact that you showed up today shows that you want to compete in them. And I'll tell you that that when we're talking about checking the integrity in a system, there is nothing that creates hope, possibility, like going in and finding someone's needs, someone's true needs, not the ones that they put out to you first, the true latent needs that exist in what they do, not what they say. And you address those, and what happens then is that is literally what I like to call a cycle of hope, where you help someone when they lay down their bed in their bed at night. They literally they are imagining more after that. They can see that their life is not stuck here. It's possible to go somewhere else. And so I think that's where the magic of a lot of this stuff is. But there is there's a concept called embrace the shake. There's a YouTube video. I'll drop it in the chat while you're talking. I really encourage everybody to look at that, because I think all of these factors, any restriction breeds innovation, but it requires deliberate work. You are going to have to grind. It's not going to be easy. But restriction throughout history, you can look out throughout history, restriction has been an enabler of innovation. If we can embrace that right now, we will be a stronger population on the other end of this thing, no matter what happens.
Thank you so much, Ray. We really appreciate it. Y'all would love to hear some of the reflections that he's shared. He shared so many good nuggets about, how do we think about bucking the orthodoxy, being deliberate and intentional every day about how we serve our clients, coming together in trust. And we'd love to hear that. Ray will be available to you all in the chat, and we're just really excited. We want to just take a few minutes. Thank you, Ray. We so appreciate you sharing some experience with us today as we plan for the future of veteran and military family services. I just want to share a little bit about what we as a collaborative have accomplished together and some of the work that we have done. And so if we could just put up some of those quick slides, I'm going to run through these very quickly to celebrate with you all as the work that we have accomplished together. We are on a mission to unite the community and accelerate the impact of veterans and military families, to connect them to the sea of resources and ensure that no one falls through the cracks. Combined Arms, we are redesigning that transition experience and elevate communities through collaboration. So thank you for taking the time to be with us today. A little bit about how we've been bucking the orthodoxy. In 2019, Combined Arms merged with the Lone Star Veterans Association. And that's the foundation of our community groups that have come together: SIVs and allies, LGBTQ veterans and allies, Christian group, veterans in tech and energy. We're doing all of that together. That following year, in April, we launched the Texas Veterans Network, expanding across the state of Texas. Then during that pandemic, we merged with the National Association of Veterans Serving Organizations to invest in our member organizations and enhance their professional development and collaboration. In January, we formally launched as the Combined Arms Institute. And then in April that year, during a pandemic, we served together 10,000 veterans and military connected individuals. And then just this month, we've launched our new client-facing assessment 2.0, which is basically taking that intake process where individuals can select services from 15 minutes, if you took every survey, to 30 seconds. It's amazing, and we're so excited to be able to share that with all of you. If you go to the next slide, Combined Arms today is the Combined Arms Institute and the Texas Veterans Network. Those are our programs, and we all sit and work together as one team. Our technology is live in Minneapolis and Miami-Dade County and across the state of Texas. It's also live, and you can connect individuals to clinical mental health care providers through the Veteran Wellness Alliance in 30 states across the nation. We're coming soon, we'll go live in San Diego, and we'll be currently building out the state of South Carolina so they can follow Texas as the second interconnected state for veterans and military families. Next slide, please. Our Texas Veterans Network, like I said, we have 177 member organizations. Each and every one of you provides a valuable resources that collectively is over 700 resources for veterans and families. We have 214 organizations in the queue waiting to come and build trust and join that referral system together. We cover 196 counties across the state of Texas in partnership with another organization. So if you go to the next slide, we know based off of data that veterans, their highest needs are employment, financial assistance, and benefits assistance, trying to just navigate that system. This year alone, we will have served 19,000, almost 20,000 unique clients, and our organizations respond within 26 hours. It's incredible having come down from 109 hours when Combined Arms first launched. If you go to the next slide, we are based in state of Texas. Here you can see their cases inside of Texas and outside of Texas as we grow with some of our community partners. But we look very closely at the demand that veterans and families have. So if you go to the next slide, we know that as the DoD creates the largest displaced workforce, career services is always the #1 most requested resource. But we take this information very seriously and are able to respond to the needs of the moment. Just like we did in May when we partnered with the Houston VA, Travis Manion Foundation, the Mission Continues, the Trumbull Health Clinic, the Buffalo Soldiers Museum to host Snacks and Vax as we saw increased demand for food insecurity. We wanted to make sure that we connected veterans, volunteers to health outcomes and really just improve our community together. And it's an honor and privilege to do this in partnership with all of you. If you go to the next slide, we would like to welcome our new member organizations, 4Block, Dallas County, Texas Veterans Services, Hope Lives Here, and Volunteers of America. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining our collaborative. We look forward to partnering with you and sending veterans and military families your way. Next slide, please. Through the Combined Arms Institute, we are on the pathway to collaboration. All roads lead to collaboration. We're on a mission to elevate the military and veteran ecosystem. We partner with you on advocacy and research and what we call our VSO 2.0, which is taking individuals and organizations to the next level in their operating skill systems. And we do that all together. This year alone, if you'll go to the next slide, please, we have provided over 1,200 hours of professional development experience to our member organizations and partners. They've invested, you are investing in yourselves, and we appreciate all of that. Through 15 events, webinars, and 1 military connected course, which we hope to scale in 2022, we partner with you through 5 different committees where organizations come together to commit to collaborating and sharing best practices. Thank you for all of that. If you'll go to the next slide, we know our veterans and families, when they come through our system, they access on average 2.4 resources. So self-navigating, they come in, they have holistic needs. And we as a community can access them and holistically serve them together. So we want to increase how we do that and how we can do that better. If you go to the next slide, please, we have a check-in system where you can, just through your iPhone, Android and iPhone apps, through that store, be a community connector and refer veterans into resources. As you can see here, we pull our report. We do the bulk of the heavy lifting and referring out to each one of you. But if you're an employment partner or a financial wellness partner or a legal services partner, we want you to ask the question, what else do you need? What else does your family need? What does your loved one, spouse, or partner need? We have these resources available. Let's get veterans connected to this sea of support that is available to them. And we've done the heavy lifting for you. So we are launching the 2022 Check-in Challenge. More details will be coming about how you can participate in this. We want to holistically serve, again, mental health resources, education resources, financial literacy. We have it all, and we have partners that we are bringing on every single day. We'd love to partner with all of you to continue to holistically meet these needs. So what we'd like to do now is to take a minute to acknowledge and appreciate our highest level referring organizations. So congratulations to Next Stop, who has made the most referrals to all of you. We will be awarding them $5,000 in support of their work. If John Zavala, if you're on the line, you are leading the way. Congratulations to the entire Next Stop team. We are thrilled to have you with us and to be a great partner as you refer out to so many of the other organizations in the network. So stay tuned for more information on that challenge. But of course, the event doesn't stop here. We have our upcoming committee breakouts. Immediately following this session, we'll move right into professional growth, where we'll have a landscape analysis on the market and brainstorm how we can work together for the future of employment for veterans and families. Next week, we have our family and caregiver sessions and wellness sessions, followed by our essential services sessions. Everyone is welcome to join these sessions. They each will have a landscape analysis presented, and then we'll move into breakouts so how we can brainstorm and work collaboratively together. Also, if you'll go to the next slide, we do have some upcoming events that we'd love to share with you all and get your participation in. We'll be hosting the State of Native American Veterans in 2021 in partnership with several organizations. Join us for this hour in advance of Native American History Month, so we can celebrate our Native American veterans who serve at a greater percentage than any portion of the American population. And we will be launching once again our fundraising academy. So stay tuned for more information for spring 2022, how you might be able to learn more and develop your development and fundraising skills. If you will, go to the next slide. We want to give you all a few minutes. Here's a QR code. We'd love your feedback on this session. We always love your feedback. All the other sessions can come. You can find all the registration information on go.combinedarms.us/convening. We invite you all to become community connectors in advance of our check-in challenge. That's what we say when we're connecting veterans and families to resources. It's as simple as seeing someone in an Army shirt in a coffee shop and saying, hey, how's your transition going? We want to empower every person across the board to connect veterans and families into this resource navigation. So thank you so much for joining us. A special thank you to our guest speaker, Ray. We really appreciate you taking the time to join with us today. Feedback from it. I'd love seeing all of your comments in the chat. It's been wonderful being with you. Thank you for your partnership. As we said before, the future of collaboration is in front of us. So please join us as we go into our next breakout sessions. We look forward to seeing you all then.